deserved that goal this afternoon.
Caught in possession, and Dennis is in for what a killer finish.
There's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. Dennis has a right to put that pressure, but look at the corners to the finish. Lovely, lovely finish from Dennis. One of them is Emmanuel Dennis. Dennis continues and scores! Watford's talisman strikes again. He goes to Watford corner. Who else would it be? Emmanuel Dennis, their main man at the moment. He looks for Dennis inside the box. Onto his left foot, Emmanuel Dennis trying to tee it up. Shoots, yes! Corner! He just can't stop scoring. Emmanuel Dennis.
This is Mela Sarr. Digs the cross in, and Watford have scored! Emmanuel Dennis!
Drills the crossing, Sarr picks it up. Dennis far post. Dennis shoots for goal! Emmanuel Dennis with his 10th goal of the season. Brilliant ball from Emmanuel Dennis.
He's back. Hello, and today we're doing a video reacting to Emmanuel Dennis returning to Watford. You love to see it. It is simply brilliant. And I'm going to discuss everything that comes with this signing. What does it mean for Valérien Ismaël's side with their current season looking to get into those playoffs? It's going to be an interesting dynamic because Emmanuel Dennis, who was brought back in by Valérien Ismaël on loan without an option to buy, but he's making a pay cut to be here, so he clearly wants to play for Watford. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because these last 4-5 months of the season, Watford have really started to get something cooking. They've started to really build back an identity, a club kind of style of football, a team ethic, and ultimately a group of players that want to play for each other, want to die for the shirt and play for the manager. And so Valérien Ismaël is a man manager. That might be ideal. But what I will say is he needs to be not afraid to make his presence known. He's done that with all of the rest of the squad, especially Imran Louza, who we know, of course, has gone now off to Lorient on loan, because he's been dropped when, at times, Louza's been late to team meetings and things like that. So Valérien is the perfect man manager for these kind of things, being nice when he needs to be, but also he will be, strict when he needs to be. And I feel that under the management of Xisco Munoz, he didn't really get his marching orders, Emmanuel Dennis, when he would step out of line in that season of the 21-22 season. And, ultimately, some of the players seemed to celebrate when Dennis left at the start of the 2022-23 season. Obviously, he played the first game at home to Sheffield United and ended up, getting that assist for João Pedro's goal. Look, at the end of the day, I think he got the assist of the assist. I think Sarr might have put it in. But what I'm getting at here is, ultimately, there was a lot of kind of problem when it came to Dennis about his attitude. And we've seen it at other clubs, like Club Bruges, like when he was at Cologne, that he can be a disruptive member of the dressing room. Now, what I will say is, there's a cracking player in there, a quality player that delivers us some very important goals in that 21-22 season. Without him, we would have got relegated a lot sooner. I mean, it's incredible stuff. 10 goals, I think it was, in his debut season, and he really just carried us that season, and a few assists in there as well. So what I'll say with Emmanuel Dennis, if we can get him to the player he was in the Premier League, in the Championship, then that is a massive kind of artillery, a massive chink in our armour, a way of boosting us into the playoffs, which is our goal. We know that it's not going to be easy. There's so many teams in that kind of playoff mix: Sunderland, Bristol City, Coventry, West Brom, You've got teams like, I don't know, even someone like Norwich, Preston. So there's a lot of teams in the mix. And we know that the last season, 22-23, we were just not up to scratch. So to suddenly go from very, very below par to, in a short space of time, Valorant has come in, had got rid of a lot of the dead wood in the team, brought in a lot of players that have clicked, but also players that want to play for each other. And so now Emmanuel Dennis comes in, and you think, oh, are Watford going backwards? They've started to show some progression. Gino Pozzo trusting Valorant and giving him a contract extension. We don't often see that for Watford managers. So starting to kind of change their club brand and their way of running things internally with the owners, but also with how the players are and how the kind of club environment is, to all of a sudden, let's bring in someone who was in amongst it in the bad times. And look, he was a huge player for us. But at the same time, will he behave? That is the question. But I think Valorant is the perfect manager, because the start of that championship season, Rob Edwards was managing, and I just think he's probably just too nice and too kind of fast in his ways to deal with a character like Emmanuel Dennis, and that's why he wanted to move. He didn't want to play in the championship, so he went out and left and went to Nottingham Forest. That didn't work out. Then he went to Istanbul Basaksehir, and then obviously he's now a technically Forest player, and we've got him on loan until the end of this season, and then we'll have to see, because there's no option to buy. Depends if we go up, I would imagine. But it does feel like the pressure on Dennis staying relies on us getting promoted, and this was more of a project under Valerie and Ismail. So if Dennis can help us to get promoted, then you would imagine he'll stay. If we get promoted, then maybe he will stay. I think if he doesn't score enough goals and we get promoted, it will be a bit of a 50-50, because will Valorant see him in our plans if he's disrupting the team ethic, etc., and not providing those goals. But we know that the risk with Dennis that we took at the start of that 21-22 season, what with all the stuff that was previously at Club Bruges and other clubs, was a gamble, but it was a gamble that really paid off, and he just clicked in that team with Ismail Assar. Now, of course, there is going to be a different dynamic with Mateus Martins on the wing, so will Dennis play on the right, or probably on the left? So Dennis on the left, Martins on the right, and then you've got Rajovic up front with Healy leaving. Now, Rajovic has also been in the kind of rumour mill, whether he ends up going, which I think is crazy considering he's our top scorer, because I know that he's not the most polished centre forward, but he just is an absolute deliverer in the 6-yard box. And Dennis is very different. He plays on the wing sometimes, he can play through the middle, but he's a speedy dribbler, and he really does have that good aerial presence, but he can also, take a lot of ability in the kind of on the ball. So a bit different to Rajovic. So I think Dennis would be perfect on the left if we need him to be there. If not, and we play Ken Sema on the left, alternatively, we have Ince and we have, someone else there. Aspria on the right as well is an option. But we've got flexibility with Dennis because, I said, as he can play up front or from the left. So I'm really excited about this signing. And let's hope that Valorant, as I've said, I think he's the perfect man to rein in Dennis. And ultimately, the fact that he's willing to come back and play in the Championship, which was a division it looked like he wasn't willing to play in before, and he's taking a pay cut to play, he loves this club, clearly, I think. Because would he do all those things after a kind of couple clubs that didn't really work out at Nottingham Forest? I mean, he scored a good goal, I think, in a win or a defeat possibly against Newcastle. Chipped Pope well, but look, outside of that, it wasn't great at Forest, and we don't quite know. I haven't watched a lot of Istanbul to judge whether it was a good transfer for him. So this is the club he loves. Clearly, he's come back, and now it's about, can he show a better side to him that will get on with the players that have really started to create a great atmosphere. And with that gamble, you've got a player who can prove and get, in half a season as well, at least 10 goals, 15 goals, 20 goals, which is going to be a huge, huge asset in the playoff, running for Watford if they have a small chance. As I said, it was more of a project for Watford, and so the expectation was not promotion in 2023 to 24, and that it was a long-term vision, get Watford back on the right direction, and then in coming years find a more clear pathway into the conversation of promotion, maybe playoff place, maybe an automatic place. The way this season is panning out, it's quite clear that Leicester City, Southampton and Ipswich are going to be the three teams tussling for automatics, because Ipswich are very, very strong. Kieran McKenna's a fantastic manager. They're staying up there, but they are faltering a little bit. Obviously, Leicester getting the win 1-0, I think, the other day. You've also got Southampton, who are very, very strong, and they are not that far off the automatics, but they're kind of keeping the rhythm. And, you know, Southampton in the FA Cup at the weekend on Sunday will be interesting. Of course, I will be doing my FA Cup predictions, so make sure you tune in for that soon this week. But ultimately, those 2-3 teams are a bit cut off. But the teams around them, the likes of your Coventrys, your West Broms, your, you know, Middlesbroughs maybe could sneak in, Sunderland's definitely. All of these teams have the potential to be in a playoff battle. And so that's going to be a lot of competition. What do you need to basically get yourself ahead in that race? Well, a proven goal scorer. Now, for Watford at colours, Dennis is that. Not in the Championship as of yet, but of course, we know that he was brilliant in the Premier League. So it's a step down, and therefore a good opportunity for Dennis to get some goals. However, he hasn't been used to the kind of sludge and the trudges of the Championship, which is obviously hard work. But what I will say is, he's a sort of player who can leave Championship defences for dead. If, you know, someone like Gustavo Harmer at Coventry, that nippy little winger, that's exactly what Dennis is. So I think if he can get the ground running, which I think is very a possibility with how well he did, then we could have a real player on our hands, and will help with everyone else as well, because it will provide competition for Asprilla, for someone like Ken Sema, who, to be fair, has not been playing a lot recently due to injury. But it's a really exciting signing, I think, this one for Watford. There has been rumours, obviously, with Reece Healey going to Huddersfield, of another possible centre forward. Links with Celtic, former Celtic striker as well. There was talk of Kiefer Moore a few months ago, but that seems to have slowed down. You know, someone like a Ryan Hardy from Plymouth would be nice. But ultimately, Watford have got their man, Emmanuel Dennis, on loan, and it'll be really, really exciting to see how he does. Ultimately, he was an absolute legend for us in that 21-22 season. In a season of pain, he provided a massive boost for us, and he was a real kind of positive glint in that season. So get your thoughts in the comments, Watford fans, on this signing. Emmanuel Dennis on loan, back to Watford. And I just can't wait to see those knee slide celebrations and much, much more. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.